Mastering human behavior and social intelligence is not about controlling others. It's about learning how to control yourself and connect with people in ways that actually work. Think about this. Every choice you make, every word you speak, every reaction you give, it all comes back to one thing: how well you understand yourself and how well you understand others. Most people drift through life blind to their own patterns, blind to the motives of others, and blind to the unspoken rules of human connection. That blindness costs them opportunities, relationships, and peace of mind. This program, Psychology of Human Behavior and Social Intelligence Mastery, is about breaking that cycle. It will give you the tools to recognize why people do what they do, how to respond with awareness, and how to build influence without manipulation. Imagine living with clarity, reading situations with accuracy, and creating genuine trust wherever you go. That's what this journey is about: lasting mastery over yourself and real connection with others. Chapter 1. Study human motives and guide your behavior with insight. All right, friend, sit with me for a moment. Today, we are going to walk into the subject of human motives, because once you understand what drives people, you begin to understand why they do what they do, and you begin to understand yourself at a whole new level. Human behavior is not random. People are not just walking around without reason. There are motives under every choice, under every word, under every action. And when you uncover those motives, you gain the ability to guide your own behavior with clarity and insight. That is the beginning of mastery. Think about your own life. Why do you wake up and do the things you do? Why do you choose certain friends, certain habits, certain goals? There is always a motive behind it. Maybe it is security. Maybe it is approval. Maybe it is freedom. Maybe it is recognition. Some people live for comfort, some for adventure, some for contribution, and some for power. These motives shape everything. If you do not take the time to study them, you end up reacting instead of directing. You end up being pulled by hidden strings instead of holding the strings in your own hands. Psychology tells us that humans are motivated by needs: food, water, safety, belonging, achievement, meaning. But I want to bring it closer to you. You walk into a room full of people. Someone smiles at you. You feel accepted. That fulfills a motive for belonging. Someone criticizes you harshly. You feel rejected. That threatens the same motive. Notice how quickly your emotions shift based on whether your core motives are touched. When you study these responses, you start to realize how powerful motives are. And once you see them, you can decide not to be a slave to them. Guiding your behavior with insight begins with asking yourself very honest questions. What is driving me right now? Am I acting out of fear or out of growth? Am I making this decision because I want approval or because it truly aligns with my values? Many people go through life chasing motives they don't even realize they have. They chase recognition but call it success. They chase comfort but call it peace. They chase attention but call it love. Insight is what cuts through the disguise. When you guide your behavior with insight, you stop living on autopilot. You start taking ownership of your choices. You realize that the urge to argue with someone might not be about truth, but about your need to feel respected. You realize that working extra hours might not be about productivity, but about your need to prove your worth. This recognition does not make you weak, it makes you powerful. Because once you know the motive, you can decide whether to follow it or redirect it. Let me give you something practical. Every day, before you act on an impulse, pause for a brief moment. Ask yourself, what do I really want here? If you are about to buy something expensive, is the motive truly the value of the product or the feeling of status it gives you? If you are about to criticize a colleague, is the motive to improve the work or to defend your ego? That small question opens the door to insight. And insight is what separates careless behavior from wise behavior. You can also study human motives by observing others. Watch the way people behave in groups. One person talks loudly, not because they have more to say, but because they crave significance. Another person stays quiet, not because they have no thoughts, but because they fear rejection. Someone shares an achievement, not just to inform, but to fulfill their need for recognition. When you start looking beneath the surface, you see the world differently. You stop taking things personally. You begin to see patterns. And when you see patterns, you can respond with wisdom instead of reaction. Social intelligence grows from this practice. If you want to master relationships, you need to know what motivates people. Everyone has their reasons. Some people seek stability, others seek excitement. Some want control, others want freedom. Some are driven by love, others by fear. If you speak to people at the level of their motives, they will listen. If you ignore their motives, you will miss them completely. Imagine trying to motivate an employee with more rules when what they really crave is autonomy. Imagine trying to comfort a friend with advice when what they really need is validation. Insight into motives gives you the power to respond appropriately. Now, human motives are not all the same. Some are basic, like survival. Some are social, like belonging. Some are higher, like meaning and legacy. The beauty of being human is that we can rise above basic motives and choose higher ones. You can choose to act from contribution instead of competition. You can choose growth over comfort. You can choose long-term vision over short-term gratification. But to do this, you must be awake to the motives that try to control you every day. There is a dangerous thing that happens when people do not study motives. They become manipulated. Advertisers know your motives. Politicians know your motives. Influencers know your motives. They use fear, approval, recognition, and desire to push your buttons. If you do not know yourself, you are at their mercy. If you do know yourself, you become harder to manipulate. You can see through the strategies. You can say no when something does not align with your real values. That is why studying motives is not just self-help, it is self-protection. Let us go even deeper. Motives can conflict. Sometimes you want freedom but also want security. Sometimes you want honesty but also want approval. Sometimes you want comfort but also want growth. This is where people get stuck. They are pulled in two directions and end up doing nothing. The solution is to prioritize. Which motive matters most in this season of your life? Which one serves your vision, not just your feelings? Clarity on this helps you guide your behavior strategically instead of emotionally. Think of the times you felt proud of yourself. Usually, it was when your behavior matched your higher motives. Maybe you resisted an unhealthy temptation because you valued health. Maybe you stood up for yourself because you valued respect. Maybe you helped someone without expecting reward because you valued contribution. These are the moments that strengthen your character. When your actions line up with motives you truly respect, you feel aligned and powerful. On the other hand, think of the times you felt regret. Often it was when your behavior was guided by lower motives. Maybe you avoided a challenge because you chose comfort over growth. Maybe you lied because you chose approval over integrity. Maybe you hurt someone because you chose ego over kindness. These moments are painful, but they are also teachers. They show you the cost of letting hidden motives control you. Here is a practice that can transform you. Each night, reflect on your day and ask yourself, what motives guided me today? Did I act from fear or from courage? Did I act from selfishness or from service? Did I act from insecurity or from confidence? Write it down. Over time, you will see patterns. And when you see patterns, you can change them. This is how you gain self-mastery. Now let us tie this to social intelligence again. People are not difficult, they are motivated. When you meet resistance, look for the motive. Is the person protecting their pride? Is the person afraid of losing something? Is the person needing recognition? If you can identify the motive, you can respond with empathy instead of frustration. You can calm anger with respect. You can ease fear with reassurance. You can build trust by meeting needs. This is not manipulation, it is understanding. It is treating people as they really are, not as you imagine them to be. Here is another important point. Your motives will evolve as you grow. What motivated you at 20 may not motivate you at 40. A young person may be driven by ambition, an older person by legacy. A struggling person may be driven by survival, a stable person by contribution. Do not judge your motives, just study them, adjust them as you grow. That is how you stay aligned with your true self through the seasons of life. The goal is not to eliminate motives, but to choose them wisely. Do not be controlled by impulses you do not understand. Do not chase motives that do not serve your vision. Instead, recognize them, question them, and guide them. You are not just a creature of habit, you are a creator of direction. You have the ability to step back, to think, to decide, to lead yourself. That is what separates humans from instinct-driven animals. That is what makes mastery possible. Imagine a life where you are not tossed around by emotions, not enslaved by approval, not tricked by fear, not blinded by ego. Instead, you see clearly. You know why you do what you do. You know why others do what they do. And you respond with wisdom. That is the power of studying human motives and guiding your behavior with insight. It gives you control, it gives you freedom, it gives you influence. So today, make a decision. Pay attention to what drives you. Ask questions about your impulses. Look deeper at other people. Practice daily reflection. Choose higher motives. Align your behavior with values you admire. Over time, you will build a life of clarity, strength, and influence. This is not just knowledge, it is transformation. And transformation begins the moment you decide to study motives and live with insight. That is the first step in mastering psychology of human behavior and social intelligence. It starts with knowing yourself. It starts with guiding your behavior consciously. And once you can guide yourself, you can begin to lead others with authenticity and wisdom. Chapter 2. Identify core psychological needs and fulfill them with balance. Every human being carries within them a set of needs that run deeper than their wants or wishes. These needs are not luxury items. They are not extras. They are the foundation of what makes life feel whole. If you overlook them, you end up restless, dissatisfied, and unfulfilled, no matter how much success you achieve. If you learn to identify them and give them the right attention, you experience balance, energy, and purpose. That is the real key to lasting growth, understanding what your psychological needs are and fulfilling them in a balanced way. Think about your daily experience. You wake up in the morning and immediately your body asks for food, water, movement, and rest. These are physical, but once those are met, your mind starts speaking too. You want to feel safe. You want to feel accepted. You want to feel capable. You want to feel respected. These are not small cravings. They are the invisible forces behind your behavior. They push you to join certain groups, to build certain habits, to stay in certain jobs, or to avoid certain risks. If you do not understand these needs, they will shape your life without your permission. The first step is to recognize the major psychological needs that drive us all. The need for certainty. the desire to know that life will be stable and secure, the need for variety, the hunger for change, surprise, and stimulation, the need for significance, the feeling that you matter and that your presence makes a difference, the need for connection and love, the desire for closeness and warmth with other people, the need for growth, the deep pull to keep learning and stretching beyond your current limits, and the need for contribution, the fulfillment that comes from giving beyond yourself. These 6 needs show up in every culture, every age, every human story. Some may feel stronger for you than others, but they are all part of the human design. Look at your own life honestly. Which of these needs has been running the show? Some people chase certainty so strongly that they never take a chance. They build walls around themselves to feel safe, but in doing so, they suffocate growth and miss out on adventure. Others crave variety so much that they cannot stay consistent with anything. They start projects and never finish them because the excitement fades once things feel routine. Some hunger for significance so deeply that they step on others to prove their worth, leaving broken relationships behind. Others pour everything into connection, but in doing so, they sacrifice their individuality. You can see why balance is critical. If one need dominates while the others are ignored, your life tilts out of harmony. Balance does not mean equal attention to every need every day. Balance means awareness and intentional choice. You might need to lean more on certainty when life feels unstable. You might embrace variety when routines start dulling your energy. You might focus on connection when you have been too isolated. The key is not to let one need blind you to the others. Awareness allows you to adjust. Without awareness, you run on autopilot. Take the need for certainty. It is healthy to want stability. It gives you a foundation, a steady job, a safe home, a predictable routine. All these satisfy certainty. But too much certainty becomes prison. If you never stretch, you never discover. If you cling too tightly to safety, you miss the thrill of growth. So fulfill certainty, but leave room for the unexpected. Allow variety to challenge you. Now, consider variety. We all need change. A new book, a new skill, a new experience. It keeps the mind alive. But too much variety creates chaos. Constant change without discipline leaves you scattered. You cannot build depth if you never stay long enough. That is why variety must balance with certainty. Have a safe foundation, but spice it with new experiences. Significance is another need. You want to matter. You want to feel recognized. This is natural. When you accomplish something meaningful and others respect it, you feel alive. But if significance is your only driver, you become desperate for approval. You may exaggerate achievements or compete endlessly to prove your worth. Balance here comes from combining significance with contribution. Instead of proving you matter by being above others, prove it by lifting others. True significance grows from impact, not ego. Connection and love are perhaps the most powerful needs. Every person longs to feel understood, cared for, and close to others. Without it, loneliness corrodes the spirit. But even here, balance is required. If connection is sought at the cost of self-respect, it leads to dependency. Real connection is mutual, not one-sided. Balance connection with significance so you value yourself while valuing others. Growth is a non-negotiable need. When you stop growing, you stop feeling alive. Every day must bring some kind of learning, no matter how small. Growth fuels confidence and keeps your spirit moving forward. But growth alone is not enough. If you grow only for yourself and never share, you may become self-centered. That is where contribution enters. Giving what you have learned, serving others, leaving a mark, this transforms growth into legacy. Now ask yourself, Which needs are you meeting in healthy ways, and which are you meeting in destructive ways? A person might meet certainty through discipline or through controlling everyone around them. They might meet variety through travel or through reckless decisions. They might meet significance through mastery or through putting others down. Needs themselves are neutral. It is the method of fulfillment that determines whether they enrich or weaken your life. To live with balance, design strategies that meet your needs in positive ways. For certainty, build routines that anchor you but still allow flexibility. For variety, add small adventures to your week, read a new book, meet someone new, try a different route to work. For significance, develop skills that create value. For connection, nurture a few relationships deeply rather than chasing endless shallow ties. For growth, set clear learning goals. For contribution, give your time, your energy, or your knowledge to someone who needs it. When you deliberately create healthy ways to fulfill each need, you prevent destructive substitutes from taking over. There is also power in recognizing which needs dominate your personality. Some people are certainty-driven. They crave stability above all. Others are variety-driven, always seeking the next challenge. Some are connection-driven, always focused on relationships. Others are growth-driven, always learning and improving. Knowing your dominant needs gives you clarity about why you behave the way you do. It also shows you where you must be cautious. A certainty-driven person must beware of missing opportunities. A variety-driven person must beware of inconsistency. A significance-driven person must beware of pride. Awareness is half the battle. Another important point is that needs are interconnected. When you meet one, you often meet another. For example, contributing to others gives you connection and significance. Learning a new skill gives you growth and variety. Building a family gives you certainty and love. This is why balance is possible. You do not have to treat needs separately. You can design actions that fulfill several at once. Think of a volunteer who teaches children. They meet their need for contribution by giving, their need for growth by teaching, their need for connection by bonding with kids, and their need for significance by knowing their efforts matter. One activity meets 4 needs in a healthy way. This is the secret. Choose actions that multiply fulfillment. If you ignore your needs, frustration grows. You may find yourself restless without knowing why. You may feel empty even after success. You may sabotage yourself because a hidden need is crying out. Many addictions and destructive behaviors come from unmet needs. A person who feels no significance may escape into substances to feel powerful. A person with no connection may drown in distractions to numb loneliness. When you study your needs and fulfill them consciously, you cut off these unhealthy escapes. Fulfilling needs with balance is also key to relationships. In every conflict, look beneath the surface. A spouse who nags may be craving certainty. A friend who brags may be desperate for significance. A child who rebels may be seeking variety. When you see the need, you can respond with understanding instead of anger. Relationships flourish when both people help each other meet their needs in healthy ways. There is also a higher perspective. While all 6 needs matter, the last 2, growth and contribution, are what bring true fulfillment. Certainty, variety, significance, and connection make life comfortable. Growth and contribution make life meaningful. You can feel safe, entertained, respected, and loved, and still feel something is missing. That missing piece is the need to grow beyond yourself and to give beyond yourself. Without these, life becomes stagnant. With them, life becomes expansive. To integrate this into your life, practice regular self-reflection. Ask yourself weekly, which needs did I meet this week? Did I meet them in healthy ways? Did I neglect any? Where am I out of balance? This awareness guides you to make adjustments. It prevents you from drifting into destructive habits. It keeps you aligned with what truly matters. Balance is not about perfection. It is about progress. You will not always meet every need every day, but if you keep them in mind, you will avoid extremes. You will catch yourself before obsession with one need causes neglect of another. You will move closer to harmony. Imagine a life where your needs are fulfilled without guilt, without desperation, without imbalance. You feel safe, yet adventurous. You feel significant, yet humble. You feel connected, yet independent. You grow daily and contribute freely. This is not fantasy. It is the result of awareness, choice, and practice. Identify your needs, fulfill them wisely, balance them consistently. This is the psychology of living strong, stable, and fulfilled. And when you master this, you are not only stronger for yourself, you are stronger for others. You become someone who understands, someone who connects, someone who leads. Because once you know how to balance your own needs, you can help others balance theirs. That is the real power of social intelligence, and it begins with the simple but profound decision to recognize your psychological needs and fulfill them with balance.
Chapter 3. Decode social signals and respond with accurate awareness. Every time you interact with another person, you are surrounded by signals. They are not spoken out loud, yet they are there in plain sight. The way someone holds their shoulders, the way they look at you or avoid your eyes, the tone they use when they answer, even the pauses between their words. These are signals that carry meaning. Most people miss them because they are focused only on what is being said. But communication is far more than words. If you want to master social intelligence, you must learn to decode these signals and respond with awareness that is sharp, accurate, and respectful. Think of how often misunderstandings happen. A friend says they are fine, but their voice is flat and their eyes are heavy. If you take their words at face value, you assume everything is okay. If you notice the signals, you understand there is more beneath the surface. A colleague agrees to help you, but their crossed arms and clenched jaw tell a different story. Someone in a group laughs along, but their forced smile shows discomfort. Social signals reveal the truth beyond words, and when you learn to read them, you connect to people in a deeper way. The first step is paying attention. Most of us rush through interactions with our minds elsewhere. True awareness means slowing down, observing, and listening with your whole attention. Notice the rhythm of speech. Notice body posture. Notice micro-expressions that flash across the face for only a second. Notice how someone's energy rises or drops depending on the topic. These are clues. The more you practice observing, the clearer they become. Eye contact is one of the most powerful signals. Too much eye contact can feel aggressive, while too little can feel dishonest or insecure. When someone looks away often while speaking, it may reveal discomfort or lack of confidence. When their eyes hold steady but soften, it often shows trust. Pay attention not just to whether they look at you, but how they look at you. The eyes reveal more than words ever could. Another critical signal is tone of voice. Two people can say the same words with completely different meaning, depending on tone. A calm, steady voice shows confidence. A shaky voice might reveal nervousness. A sharp or raised tone can signal anger or urgency. When you listen closely to tone, you realize it often carries more meaning than the actual words. Posture is equally telling. Someone leaning forward with open arms is showing engagement. Someone sitting back with crossed arms is creating distance. A slouched posture may indicate disinterest or fatigue. A tall, upright stance often conveys confidence. Watch how people adjust their posture during a conversation. It often shifts in response to feelings they are experiencing in the moment. Micro-expressions are brief, facial changes that reveal true emotions before a person can hide them. A flash of anger, a twitch of fear, a spark of joy, they appear for a fraction of a second. Most people miss them, but if you train yourself to notice, you catch glimpses of honesty even when someone is trying to conceal it. These signals remind you that humans are emotional beings first, and rational beings second. But decoding signals is not enough. You must also respond with accuracy and sensitivity. If you misread signals, you may damage trust. If you read them correctly but respond poorly, you may create distance instead of closeness. Responding with awareness means choosing your words and actions in alignment with what you have observed. If you sense someone is nervous, your calm reassurance helps. If you notice someone is excited, matching their energy builds rapport. If you detect discomfort, giving space shows respect. Responding accurately also means checking your assumptions. Social signals can vary across cultures, personalities, and situations. For example, avoiding eye contact may mean dishonesty in one culture, but respect in another. A loud voice may mean anger for one person, but natural enthusiasm for another. Before you react, consider context. Ask clarifying questions if needed. Awareness without assumption is the safest path. When you become skilled at reading social signals, you begin to see patterns. You notice who tends to dominate conversations and who withdraws. You see who thrives in groups and who prefers one-on-one. You sense tension before arguments arise. You catch enthusiasm before ideas are even spoken. This skill makes you valuable in teams, families, and communities because you can respond before issues escalate. Imagine walking into a room and noticing the unspoken atmosphere. You sense who is at ease, who feels ignored, who is tense, and who is open to engagement. Instead of barging into conversations blindly, you move with awareness. You choose your timing. You offer encouragement to the one who seems quiet. You give acknowledgement to the one who seems overlooked. This level of awareness transforms you into someone others trust and respect. This ability is especially critical in leadership. A leader who cannot read signals often pushes too hard when the team is already exhausted, or ignores issues that are silently boiling. A leader with awareness notices when morale drops, when individuals feel unheard, when energy is fading. They respond quickly, not just with policies or speeches, but with human understanding. People follow leaders who understand them, not just instruct them. Accurate awareness also protects relationships. Many arguments grow because people misinterpret signals or ignore them altogether. A partner sighs repeatedly, and the other assumes it means annoyance, when it might mean stress from work. A friend pulls away in conversation, and you think they dislike you, when they may just be tired. By paying closer attention and asking gently, you prevent unnecessary conflict. Awareness bridges gaps that assumptions widen. This practice does not just apply to others. You must also learn to observe your own signals. Are you sending messages you do not intend? Crossing your arms might make you seem closed even if you are simply comfortable. Speaking in a sharp tone might make you seem angry even if you are simply rushed. Self-awareness means noticing how your signals affect others and adjusting when needed. This creates clarity in your interactions. Technology has made this skill even more important. So much of our communication happens through texts and screens, where signals are absent. This makes in-person awareness even more valuable. A message may say one thing, but tone and body language reveal the truth when you meet face to face. Those who rely only on digital communication often lose touch with this deeper layer of connection. But those who keep practicing in-person awareness maintain a skill that will never lose its power. There is also a moral dimension to this practice. To decode signals is not to manipulate, it is to understand. It is to respect the reality of another person's inner world. When you use this awareness to help, support, and connect, you create stronger bonds. When you use it to exploit, you damage trust. Choose to use it with integrity. Developing this skill requires patience. At first, you may notice only the most obvious signals. Over time, you will pick up subtle ones. Begin by focusing on one area at a time. One day, pay close attention to tone. Another day, focus on posture. Another, observe eye movement. As you train your attention, your awareness sharpens. It becomes second nature. Also remember that accuracy improves when you combine signals. One signal alone can mislead. For example, crossed arms might mean defense, or simply coldness. But if crossed arms are paired with a tense jaw and short responses, the meaning is clearer. Look for clusters of signals instead of isolating one. The benefits of mastering this are enormous. You resolve conflicts faster. You inspire trust more easily. You connect with strangers more naturally. You strengthen friendships. You lead with wisdom. Most importantly, you honor people by seeing them fully, not just hearing their words. Humans long to be understood. When you read their signals accurately and respond with care, you give them that gift. Your daily life offers endless opportunities to practice. Notice the cashier at the store, the teacher in the classroom, the colleague in the meeting, the family member at the dinner table. Every interaction carries signals waiting to be seen. The more you practice, the more natural it becomes. What once felt hidden becomes obvious. What once seemed mysterious becomes clear. Mastering this does not mean you will never make mistakes. Everyone misreads sometimes. The key is humility. If you realize you misunderstood, correct yourself quickly. Ask questions. Clarify. Show that you care enough to get it right. People forgive mistakes when they see genuine effort. At the end of the day, decoding social signals and responding with awareness is about respect. It says, I see you, I hear you. I notice what you are really feeling. That is what people crave, not perfect words, not flawless logic, but authentic understanding. When you give that, you build trust that lasts. So make it your mission to slow down, to observe, to listen deeply. Study the signals that shape human interaction. Respond with kindness, with accuracy, with balance. Over time, you will find that your relationships grow stronger, your influence grows deeper, and your life becomes richer. Because to master social intelligence is to master the art of truly being present with others, and that is one of the highest skills a human can ever develop.
Chapter 4. Apply reinforcement psychology and shape stronger daily habits. Every action you repeat in life builds into a habit. Some of these habits make you stronger, more capable, and more disciplined. Others slowly weaken you, drain your energy, and keep you stuck. The difference is not luck. The difference is how you reinforce behavior. Reinforcement psychology is the simple but powerful principle that what gets rewarded gets repeated, and what gets punished gets reduced. Once you understand how to use this principle, you can shape your daily habits into a system that pulls you toward growth instead of holding you back. Think about the habits that already run your life. You brush your teeth because as a child you were praised for it, or because the fresh feeling in your mouth rewarded the behavior.
You check your phone first thing in the morning because the small hit of messages or notifications gives your brain a quick sense of pleasure. You eat a certain snack at night because your body associates it with comfort. Habits are not random. They are built through reinforcement, either positive or negative. Positive reinforcement means adding something desirable after a behavior. You exercise and reward yourself with a refreshing shower, and over time, the satisfaction makes the workout more appealing. You complete a difficult task and give yourself recognition, which motivates you to tackle the next one. Negative reinforcement means removing something uncomfortable when you perform a behavior. You wake up on time to avoid the stress of being late. You finish a project early to remove the anxiety of last-minute pressure. Both types of reinforcement shape behavior, whether you notice it or not. The challenge is that most people reinforce the wrong behaviors without realizing it. Every time you procrastinate and then feel temporary relief, you reinforce procrastination. Every time you eat junk food and feel comfort, you reinforce unhealthy eating. Every time you avoid a conversation and escape tension, you reinforce avoidance. The relief or pleasure rewards the wrong action, making it stronger. That is why breaking bad habits feels so difficult. You are fighting against reinforcement patterns that have been repeated hundreds of times. To take control, you must flip the reinforcement. Identify the behaviors that align with your vision and values, then deliberately attach positive reinforcement to them. If you want to read more, reward yourself after finishing a chapter with something you enjoy. If you want to save money, celebrate each small milestone so your brain connects saving with pleasure. If you want to build consistency, track your progress visually and let the satisfaction of seeing improvement reinforce the habit. The key is to make positive behaviors rewarding in the moment, not just in the distant future. At the same time, make negative behaviors less rewarding. If you want to reduce time on your phone, remove the easiest sources of gratification by deleting distracting apps. If you want to cut down on unhealthy food, stop stocking it in your house so the reward is not immediately available. If you want to break procrastination, create mild consequences for delay, like sharing your goals with someone who will ask for updates. By changing the reinforcement, you weaken the grip of destructive habits. The real strength of reinforcement psychology is in consistency. A single reward or consequence does not change much. Repeated reinforcement builds neural pathways in the brain that make behaviors automatic. Each time you repeat a habit with reinforcement, the connection grows stronger until eventually the behavior runs with little conscious effort. That is why daily structure is essential. One skipped day is not failure, but a repeated break weakens the reinforcement chain. Strong habits are built the same way weak habits are built, one repetition at a time. Here is where strategy comes in. Start with small behaviors that are easy to reinforce. If you want to exercise daily, begin with 5 minutes. Reward yourself immediately with something meaningful, even just the satisfaction of marking it off a calendar. Once the small habit is solid, expand it. The brain loves progress, but it resists overwhelming change. By reinforcing small steps, you build momentum that leads to bigger transformation. Another important principle is timing. Reinforcement works best when it is immediate. If you complete a task and reward yourself instantly, the brain links the behavior to the reward. If the reward comes hours later, the connection is weaker. That is why many people fail with long-term goals like weight loss or saving money. The reward feels too far away. The solution is to create immediate reinforcement for long-term behaviors. Track your workouts daily. Celebrate each week of savings. Acknowledge progress every step of the way. This keeps the brain engaged and motivated. You can also use reinforcement psychology to build identity. Each time you reinforce a positive behavior, remind yourself of the identity it represents. After exercising, tell yourself, I am a person who takes care of my health. After reading, affirm, I am someone who invests in my mind. After saving money, say, I am someone who is financially responsible. These statements reinforce not just the action, but the self-image behind it. Over time, the habit becomes part of who you are, not just what you do. It is important to understand that reinforcement is not about perfection. You will slip, you will miss days. What matters is how quickly you return. If you miss once, do not miss twice. If you break the chain, start it again immediately. Reinforcement grows strongest through persistence, not flawless execution. You can also reinforce habits socially. Share your goals with people who support you. Each time they encourage you, the social reward strengthens your commitment. Join groups where positive behaviors are normalized. The approval and recognition of others can be a powerful reinforcement tool, especially when used intentionally. Do not underestimate the role of environment. Your surroundings either reinforce good habits or bad ones. A cluttered desk reinforces distraction. A stocked fridge reinforces overeating. A visible workout mat reinforces exercise. Shape your environment so that positive behaviors are easier and more rewarding, while negative ones are harder and less appealing. One of the greatest lessons in reinforcement psychology is that willpower alone is not enough. Willpower is like a battery. It runs out. Reinforcement is like wiring. It keeps the current flowing automatically. If you rely only on willpower, you burn out. If you design reinforcement to your daily life, you create habits that run with less effort over time. Think about how children are taught. A child receives praise for good behavior and correction for poor behavior. Over time, they learn what is rewarded and what is not. Adults are no different. We are still wired to respond to reinforcement. The difference is that now you can design your own reinforcement instead of waiting for someone else to provide it. You can choose what you reward, what you reduce, and what you repeat. To shape stronger daily habits, focus on 3 questions. First, what behaviors do I want to reinforce? Second, how can I reward them immediately and meaningfully? Third, how can I reduce reinforcement for the behaviors I want to eliminate? Answering these questions gives you a plan instead of relying on vague intention. Over time, the results build. A habit, reinforced daily, becomes part of your identity. A collection of strong habits shapes the direction of your life. What you repeatedly reinforce becomes who you are. That is why this principle is so powerful. It gives you control over the small actions that accumulate into destiny. The truth is that every successful person you admire has used reinforcement psychology, whether they call it that or not. Athletes reinforce training with progress tracking and recognition. Entrepreneurs reinforce risk-taking with small wins. Writers reinforce consistency with daily word counts and deadlines. None of them rely only on motivation. They rely on systems of reinforcement that make habits stronger every day. You are capable of the same. Start small. Pick one habit you want to build. Attach an immediate reward. Track your progress daily. Reduce the reinforcement for habits you want to remove. Over weeks and months, watch how small reinforcements turn into automatic routines. This is not theory, it is proven psychology. When you master reinforcement, you realize that your life is not shaped by big decisions alone. It is shaped by the daily behaviors you repeat. Each one is a brick in the foundation of your future. By applying reinforcement psychology, you can choose which bricks to lay and which to remove. You can design habits that support your goals instead of sabotage them. And when you shape your habits, you shape your character. When you shape your character, you shape your destiny. The power lies in your hands. Reinforce what matters. Reduce what holds you back. Repeat until it becomes second nature. That is how you build a life of strength, discipline, and growth, one daily habit at a time.
Chapter 5. Understand cognitive biases and correct distorted human thinking.
Human beings like to believe they see the world clearly, but the truth is that our minds are filled with shortcuts, assumptions, and blind spots. These are not flaws in the sense of broken machinery. They are part of the way the human brain evolved to make quick decisions. They are called cognitive biases, and they affect everyone, no matter how intelligent or well-educated. Biases distort how we see situations, how we remember events, how we judge people, and how we make choices. If you want to live with clarity and make sound decisions, you must learn to identify these distortions and correct them. Without that effort, you risk being ruled by errors in thinking that you never even notice. Consider confirmation bias. This is the tendency to look for information that agrees with what you already believe, and to ignore or dismiss information that challenges it. If you think a person is unreliable, you will notice every time they show up late and overlook every time they arrive early. If you believe a diet works, you will see only the success stories and avoid reading about the failures. This bias feels comfortable because it protects your current beliefs, but it blinds you from growth. Correcting it requires deliberately seeking out opposing evidence and giving it real consideration. You must ask yourself, what if I am wrong? What facts challenge my opinion? That is how you loosen the grip of confirmation bias. Another common distortion is availability bias. The mind gives more weight to information that comes to mind easily, even if it is not the most accurate. For example, after watching news about plane crashes, people fear flying more than driving, even though statistics show driving is far riskier. After hearing about a few business failures, someone might avoid entrepreneurship even though countless businesses succeed every year. The mind substitutes ease of recall for truth. To correct this, you must train yourself to look at data, not just memory. Ask, what do the numbers actually show? What is the bigger picture? This slows the brain down and grounds decisions in reality instead of impressions. Anchoring bias is another trap. When making judgments, people rely heavily on the first piece of information they encounter. A product listed at $100 but discounted to $70 feels like a bargain, even if its real value is $50. A salary offer sounds generous if it is higher than your last one, even if it is below market value. Anchors shape perception, and they stick. Correcting anchoring bias requires stepping back and asking, what is the fair standard here? What would I think if I didn't know the first number? By removing the anchor, you see more clearly. There is also the halo effect. When you admire one quality of a person, you tend to assume they have other positive qualities. If someone is physically attractive, you might unconsciously assume they are kind or intelligent. If someone is successful in one area, you might assume they are competent in all areas. This bias can lead to misplaced trust. To correct it, you must separate traits. Evaluate each aspect of a person independently. Someone may be brilliant in business and untrustworthy in relationship. Someone may be charming socially, but careless with responsibility. Awareness of the halo effect keeps you from making shallow judgments. Negativity bias works in the opposite direction. People remember and focus more on negative events than positive ones. A single criticism outweighs 10 compliments. A bad day overshadows a week of good ones. This bias evolved as a survival tool. Our ancestors had to remember dangers more than pleasures. But in modern life it distorts reality, making us pessimistic and ungrateful. To correct it, practice deliberate gratitude. Count the positives. Acknowledge successes. Keep perspective by weighing both sides fairly. Without this correction, you risk exaggerating problems and ignoring blessings. Another distortion is the sunk cost fallacy. People continue investing in something just because they already invested in it, even when it no longer makes sense. Someone stays in a failing business because of all the money already spent. Someone stays in a toxic relationship because of all the years invested. The mind resists admitting loss, so it clings to bad decisions. Correcting this requires asking, if I had not invested anything yet, would I still choose this? If the answer is no, the rational choice is to let go. Future decisions must be based on future value, not past cost. Overconfidence bias is another dangerous distortion. People tend to overestimate their knowledge, skills, and control. Most drivers believe they are above average. Many investors believe they can beat the market. People assume they can predict outcomes more accurately than they actually can. This bias leads to poor decisions and unnecessary risks. To correct it, cultivate humility. Assume you could be wrong. Seek second opinions. Test your ideas before acting on them. Confidence is healthy, but overconfidence blinds. Then there is attribution bias. People explain their own successes by crediting their skills, but explain others' successes as luck. People blame their failures on bad circumstances, but blame others' failures on personal flaws. This bias protects ego but distorts fairness. Correcting it requires empathy and honesty. Look at your role in failures. Acknowledge luck in successes. Recognize that others face challenges too. By doing this, you see reality more accurately and treat people more fairly. Groupthink is another cognitive distortion that arises in teams. People silence doubts to fit in with the group. They agree outwardly even when inwardly they disagree. This leads to poor decisions because critical thinking is replaced by conformity. Correcting groupthink requires courage to speak up, and leaders must encourage open debate. Ask, what are we missing? What is the counter-argument? True progress comes from honest discussion, not forced agreement. These are only a few of the many biases that shape human thought. What matters most is recognizing that nobody is immune. Intelligence does not eliminate bias. Success does not eliminate bias. Being human means you will face these distortions, but awareness gives you power. Once you see the patterns, you can interrupt them. You can step back and question your first instincts. You can bring in evidence, feedback, and reflection to balance your judgment. Correcting distorted thinking also requires slowing down. Many biases thrive in speed. When you make snap decisions, your brain relies on shortcuts. When you take time to analyze, you give reason a chance to balance instinct. Before reacting strongly, pause. Before deciding big matters, gather information. Before judging someone, ask questions. This pause creates the space where bias loses its grip. Another practical method is to keep a decision journal. When facing an important choice, write down your reasoning and expectation. Later, compare the outcome with your notes. Over time, you will see where bias distorted your judgment. Did you rely on memory instead of facts? Did you ignore evidence that contradicted your belief? Did you fall for an anchor or halo? This practice trains you to catch patterns and correct them earlier next time. It is also helpful to surround yourself with people who think differently. Bias thrives in isolation. When you only hear your own thoughts, they sound complete. When you hear diverse perspectives, blind spots are revealed. Invite feedback. Welcome disagreement. Learn to value the person who challenges your thinking, not just the one who agrees with it. This does not mean you must accept every criticism, but it keeps you from living inside an echo chamber. Correcting biases is not about becoming a perfect thinker. That is impossible. It is about becoming a better thinker. Even small improvements reduce mistakes, improve relationships, and lead to wiser choices. Imagine negotiating without falling for anchor. Imagine planning your life without being trapped by sunk costs. Imagine evaluating people without halos or unfair judgments. Imagine making decisions based on reality, not distorted perception. The difference in outcomes would be enormous. There is also an emotional benefit. Biases often fuel conflict, frustration, and regret. When you assume the worst of others, you damage relationships. When you exaggerate negatives, you lose hope. When you cling to sunk costs, you prolong suffering. Correcting these distortions brings peace. It frees you from unnecessary emotional weight. It helps you accept reality as it is, not as your biases paint it. To practice this daily, develop the habit of questioning your thoughts. Whenever you feel certain, ask, could I be missing something? Whenever you judge someone, ask, am I being fair? Whenever you feel afraid, ask, am I exaggerating the risk? These small questions disrupt automatic biases. Over time, the discipline of questioning builds sharper clarity. You must also remember that biases are not only individual but collective. Entire societies can fall into distorted thinking, fearing groups unfairly, overvaluing trends, ignoring evidence. History is filled with examples of collective bias leading to disaster. That is why developing awareness is not just personal growth. It is a responsibility. When you train yourself to think clearly, you influence others to do the same. You become a voice of reason in a world often ruled by distortion. Your mind is a powerful tool, but it is not flawless. It needs correction, guidance, and reflection. By learning about biases, by observing them in yourself, by practicing corrections, you give yourself an advantage that few people ever gain. You stop being a victim of mental shortcuts and start becoming a master of your own thinking. This mastery will not come in a single day. It is a lifetime practice, but every step brings benefit. Every distortion you catch before it misleads you saves you from error. Every bias you correct moves you closer to wisdom. Every act of awareness builds a life guided not by illusions, but by truth. And when you build that kind of clarity, your relationships strengthen, your decisions improve, and your influence expands. People trust those who see clearly. People follow those who think fairly. People respect those who can rise above distortion. That can be you, if you commit to the work of identifying biases and correcting distorted human thinking.
Chapter 6. Use emotional intelligence to influence people with authenticity. Influence is a word that often carries the wrong impression. Many people think of it as manipulation, as if to influence someone is to trick them into doing something against their will. But influence in its highest form is not about control. It is about connection. It is about guiding people in ways that honor them, in ways that build trust, in ways that uplift. And the most powerful path to this kind of influence is emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence means being aware of your own emotions, recognizing the emotions of others, and responding in a way that builds understanding. It is not about putting on a mask or pretending to care. It is about showing up authentically, with clarity, and using that authenticity to create positive impact. Every day, you have opportunities to influence. You influence your children with the tone of your voice and the attention you give. You influence your co-workers with the way you respond under stress. You influence your friends with your encouragement or your silence. Whether you know it or not, your emotions are shaping the emotions of others. A single harsh word can damage trust. A single act of genuine empathy can deepen loyalty. The difference lies in how well you manage yourself and how well you understand others. That is the heart of emotional intelligence. The first step is awareness of your own emotions. Most people think emotions just happen, as if anger, stress, or joy are forces beyond control. But in truth, emotions are signals, not dictators. They point to something you value, something that matters to you. When you feel frustration, it is often because an expectation has been blocked. When you feel excitement, it is because a desire is being fulfilled. If you want to use emotional intelligence, you must learn to pause and identify what you are feeling and why. If you cannot name your emotions, they will rule you. If you can name them, you can manage them. Once you know what you are feeling, the next step is regulating it. This does not mean suppressing emotions or pretending they don't exist.
It means guiding them so they serve you instead of harming you. For example, if you are angry in a meeting and you lash out, you lose influence immediately. If you feel the anger, take a breath, steady your voice, and express your concern calmly. You maintain credibility and others will listen. Regulation gives you control, and control gives you strength. Without it, influence collapses. Now turn your attention to others. Emotional intelligence means noticing not only your own state, but also the states of those around you. Watch their body language. Listen to their tone. Pay attention to their energy. A coworker may say they are fine, but their shoulders slumped forward tell you otherwise. A friend may smile, but their voice sounds flat. These cues are often more truthful than words. If you miss them, you miss the chance to connect. If you catch them, you have an opening to influence with authenticity. Influence comes when people feel understood. One of the deepest human desires is to be seen and heard. When you acknowledge someone's emotions, you make them feel valued. Saying, "I can tell this is frustrating for you," or "it seems like this is really exciting," shows that you notice their inner state. You do not have to agree with everything they feel, but recognizing it opens the door. Once people feel understood, they are more willing to listen, more willing to trust, more willing to be influenced. Authenticity is critical here. People can sense when your concern is real and when it is fake. You cannot fake empathy for long. The truth shows through in small signals. Authentic influence means aligning your actions with your values, being consistent in your behavior, and caring about the person as much as the outcome. If you only act interested when you want something, people eventually withdraw. If you genuinely value others, your influence grows naturally. Emotional intelligence also means choosing the right response for the right situation. Not every moment requires advice. Sometimes people just need validation. Not every challenge requires comfort. Sometimes people need encouragement to rise. Not every conflict requires retreat. Sometimes people need firm boundaries. The ability to read the situation and adjust your response is what separates clumsy influence from effective influence. And the adjustment must come from authenticity, not from performance. Consider the leader who motivates a team. A leader without emotional intelligence may demand harder work without noticing that morale is collapsing. A leader with emotional intelligence senses the fatigue, acknowledges it, and shifts approach, perhaps by offering appreciation, breaking down goals, or giving short rest before pushing forward again. That awareness and adjustment inspire loyalty. The team works not because they are forced, but because they feel supported. Influence rooted in empathy is stronger than influence rooted in fear. Think also about personal relationships. In a disagreement, emotional intelligence keeps you from escalating anger. Instead of reacting defensively, you step back and try to understand why the other person feels the way they do. You acknowledge their emotions, share your own honestly, and seek resolution. This builds trust rather than resentment. Over time, relationships with this kind of communication grow deeper and stronger. Influence in a relationship is not about winning arguments. It is about building mutual respect that allows both people to move forward together. One of the overlooked aspects of emotional intelligence is authenticity in vulnerability. People connect with those who show their humanity. When you admit you don't have all the answers, when you share that you are learning, when you express your feelings honestly, you create a bond. This does not weaken your influence, it strengthens it. People trust those who are real. They may admire perfection, but they follow authenticity. There is also the aspect of timing. Influence is often lost, not because the message is wrong, but because the timing is poor. Emotional intelligence helps you sense the right moment. You notice whether someone is open or closed, whether they are calm or agitated, whether they are ready to listen or need space first. Pushing your words at the wrong time creates resistance. Waiting for the right time creates receptivity. Awareness of timing is a form of respect, and respect always amplifies influence. To grow this ability, you must practice deliberate attention. In every interaction, ask yourself, what am I feeling? What are they feeling? And what does the situation require? This three-part awareness, self, others, and context, forms the foundation of emotional intelligence. Over time, it becomes natural. You begin to respond less out of habit and more out of conscious choice. You shift from reacting to guiding, from clashing to connecting. Another way to strengthen influence through emotional intelligence is to align words and actions. Nothing destroys trust faster than inconsistency. If you say you value teamwork but always act in self-interest, people will notice. If you say you respect others but interrupt constantly, people will feel the disconnect. Authentic influence requires integrity. Your actions must confirm your words. When people see consistency, they believe you. When they believe you, they follow. There is also the power of encouragement. People often underestimate the impact of sincere recognition. When you notice someone's effort and express genuine appreciation, you reinforce their motivation. Emotional intelligence allows you to see what others need encouragement in, and how to deliver it in a way that feels real, not forced. Influence grows when people feel valued for who they are and what they contribute. At the same time, emotional intelligence involves setting boundaries. Authentic influence does not mean pleasing everyone. It means leading with respect while holding to your value. Sometimes influence comes from saying no clearly and calmly. Sometimes it comes from holding firm to principles when others waver. The ability to balance empathy with strength is what makes influence sustainable. Too soft and people do not take you seriously. Too rigid and people withdraw. Balanced authenticity keeps influence alive. Think of influence not as a technique, but as a way of living. Every time you interact with others, you are leaving an emotional imprint. You can leave frustration, confusion, and mistrust, or you can leave clarity, encouragement, and respect. The choice lies in your emotional intelligence. By being aware, by regulating yourself, by noticing others, by responding authentically, you shape the emotional climate around you. That is real influence. It is also important to recognize that emotional intelligence grows with practice. You do not master it in a day. But every interaction is training. Every time you pause before reacting, you grow stronger. Every time you listen deeply, you sharpen awareness. Every time you act with authenticity, you build trust. These small steps accumulate into a reputation. And that reputation is what ultimately gives your influence weight. Influence built on fear fades when fear is gone. Influence built on authority ends when authority shifts. Influence built on money disappears when the money does. But influence built on emotional intelligence lasts. It lasts because it is based on understanding, respect, and authenticity. People remember how you made them feel. People trust those who consistently show awareness and care. And trust is the foundation of influence that endures. The ability to use emotional intelligence to influence is one of the most valuable skills you can ever develop. It will elevate your career, enrich your relationships, strengthen your leadership, and deepen your personal fulfillment. It is not about tricks or tactics. It is about being human in the most intentional way possible. It is about using your emotions wisely and honoring the emotions of others. It is about guiding people not through force, but through authenticity. So take this into your daily life. Slow down and note it. Acknowledge feelings, both yours and others. Regulate your responses with discipline. Speak with sincerity. Act with consistency. Offer encouragement when it is needed. Set boundaries when it is necessary. Choose timing with sensitivity. Above all, remain authentic. This is not performance, it is presence. And presence has power. When you live this way, people respond differently. They open up more quickly. They listen more attentively. They follow more willingly. They trust more deeply. That is the gift of emotional intelligence. It turns ordinary interactions into moments of influence. It turns casual conversations into opportunities for connection. It turns leadership into service that inspires. And it all begins with the decision to use your emotions, not as weapons, not as masks, but as tools of authentic connection. That is how you influence people in a way that lasts.
Chapter 7. Master Group Psychology and Lead Conversations with Confidence. Whenever people gather together, whether in a workplace, a family, a classroom, or a social setting, invisible dynamics begin to unfold. The group takes on a life of its own. Ideas bounce, emotions spread, alliances form, and decisions are shaped not only by logic, but by energy, status, and unspoken rules. This is group psychology. If you understand how groups function, you can step into conversations with clarity instead of fear. You can guide the flow instead of being pulled by it. You can lead with confidence instead of shrinking back. Leadership in groups is not about dominating with volume. It is about reading the room, setting the tone, and directing the flow of communication so that people feel heard and inspired at the same time. Group psychology begins with awareness of collective behavior. In a group, people often act differently than they do alone. Someone quiet in private might speak more freely when supported by peers. Someone who appears confident in one-on-one might become reserved when surrounded by strong personalities. Groups create a sense of safety for some and intimidation for others. They amplify emotions, both positive and negative. Understanding this reality allows you to predict shifts in energy and step in before they spiral out of control. One of the most important elements of group psychology is social proof. People tend to follow the opinions and behaviors they see around them, especially from those they perceive as leaders or authorities. If one person in a group expresses excitement, that excitement often spreads. If one person expresses doubt, others may become cautious too. As someone seeking to lead conversations with confidence, you must understand the weight of your signals. When you speak with clarity and conviction, you influence the group's direction. When you hesitate, the group feels uncertainty. This does not mean you must know everything. It means you must own your presence. Confidence in group conversations is not about being the loudest voice. Confidence comes from preparation, intention, and authenticity. Before stepping into a group setting, know your purpose. Ask yourself, what is the outcome I want from this conversation? Is it to inspire, to resolve, to inform, to unite? Clear intention gives you a steady center. Without it, you may get lost in the noise of competing voices. Another crucial aspect of leading group conversations is listening. Too many assume leadership means doing all the talking. In truth, the best leaders speak less and listen more. They watch carefully. They note who has not spoken. They draw out quieter voices. They acknowledge contributions. When people feel heard, they contribute more. When they contribute more, the group becomes stronger. And when the group becomes stronger, your leadership grows naturally. Managing group dynamics also requires understanding roles that people fall into. In every group, certain roles emerge. There is the driver who pushes for action, the analyzer who questions details, the supporter who seeks harmony, and the skeptic who resists change. Each role has value, but if one dominates, imbalance occurs. As a leader, your role is to recognize these patterns and bring balance. If the driver is overwhelming, give space for the quieter members. If the skeptic is dragging morale, acknowledge their concerns but bring focus back to solutions. This balancing act requires awareness and confidence. Confidence is strengthened by presence. When you walk into a group, your body language speaks before your words do.
Stand tall, maintain steady eye contact, and project your voice with calm assurance. People respond to signals of certainty. They feel it when you believe in yourself, and they feel it when you doubt. Confidence is not arrogance. It is grounded energy that communicates. I know where we are going, and I am here to guide. Another important skill in leading conversations is managing conflict. Groups inevitably bring disagreements. If ignored, they fester. If handled poorly, they divide. If handled wisely, they create growth. Leading with confidence means welcoming diverse opinions without letting them escalate into hostility. Encourage respectful expression. Reframe heated comments into constructive questions. Summarize points to show understanding. Then guide the group back to common ground. Conflict, handled with calm leadership, strengthens trust, because people see that you are not afraid of tension, but capable of directing it. Psychology also tells us about conformity pressure in groups. Many people will hold back their true opinions to avoid standing out. If you want authentic discussion, you must create safety for honesty. Thank those who disagree. Encourage alternative viewpoints. Show that diversity of thought is valued. When people realize they will not be punished for speaking truth, the group reaches better decisions. This is not only leadership, it is courage. Emotions in groups spread quickly. Enthusiasm, doubt, fear or hope can ripple through everyone. As a leader, you are the thermostat. You set the emotional climate. If you are anxious, the group will feel it. If you are calm and hopeful, the group will rise to that. This does not mean ignoring real challenges. It means facing challenges with steadiness, so others can borrow strength from your composure. Leadership is contagious, and your emotions are the spark. To lead with confidence, preparation matters. Know your subject, anticipate questions, and prepare clear points. But also prepare your mindset. Tell yourself, I belong here, I bring value, and my voice matters. Confidence grows from self-belief. If you doubt your worth, the group will sense hesitation. If you carry yourself with certainty, the group will trust you even when answers are incomplete. Leading conversations also involves guiding focus. Groups can easily drift into tangents or lose direction. Part of confident leadership is gently steering back to the purpose. Use clear transitions. Summarize progress. Highlight next steps. Keep the group moving forward without stifling creativity. This balance between openness and direction is what makes group conversations productive. There will be times when silence fills the room. Many fear silence and rush to fill it, but silence can be powerful. A confident leader uses pauses strategically. After asking a question, wait, give people time to think. That pause shows patience and invites depth. Silence handled with confidence communicates strength, not weakness. To grow skill in group leadership, seek practice in different settings. Volunteer to lead small discussions. Facilitate team meetings. Engage in community groups. Each experience builds awareness and confidence. Over time, what once felt intimidating becomes natural. You learn to read group energy quickly, adjust your style, and guide with ease. You must also accept that not every group will respond perfectly. There will be resistance. There will be misunderstandings. There will be times you stumble. Confidence is not the absence of mistakes. It is the willingness to continue leading despite them. Every conversation is an opportunity to learn. With reflection, even difficult moments. Strengthen your ability. Remember that leadership is not about spotlight. It is about service. Leading group conversations is not about making yourself look important. It is about bringing out the best in others, helping the group achieve something greater together. Confidence built on service is lasting, because people sense your intention. When they know you care more about the mission than your ego, they follow more willingly. When you combine understanding of group psychology with authentic confidence, You gain a skill that few ever master. You become the one who steadies chaos, who amplifies voices, who directs energy toward progress. You become the one people trust when conversations matter most. This influence does not come from title or force. It comes from awareness, presence, and courage. Each time you enter a group, remind yourself that the dynamics are real, but they are not beyond your influence. You can set the tone. You can guide the direction. You can lead the conversation with confidence that uplifts everyone. And as you do, your impact will extend far beyond words. It will shape the way people feel, the way they connect, and the way they move forward together. That is the power of mastering group psychology and leading conversations with confidence.
Chapter 8. Practice behavioral flexibility and adapt smoothly in social contexts. Life places you in countless social situations, each with its own rhythm, its own expectations, its own unwritten rules. Sometimes you walk into a quiet meeting where calm voices dominate. Other times you step into a lively gathering where humor and energy fill the air. You might face a tense conflict at work one moment and a warm family dinner the next. The way you show up in each of these settings determines how people receive you, how smoothly things go, and how effectively you connect. If you always respond in the same way regardless of context, you limit yourself. But if you develop behavioral flexibility, the ability to adjust your words, tone, body language, and actions to fit the environment, you can move smoothly through diverse situations and strengthen every interaction. Flexibility does not mean losing your identity or pretending to be someone you are not. It means being able to bring forward the right parts of yourself at the right time. You are not one-dimensional, you carry many strengths within you. Sometimes firmness is required, sometimes gentleness, sometimes humor, sometimes seriousness. People who cannot adapt get stuck in patterns. They push the same style everywhere, even when it does not fit. They might be overly casual in formal situations, or too rigid in relaxed ones. This creates disconnection. Flexibility allows you to remain yourself while adjusting your approach so others feel respected and included. Consider how children adapt in different environments. In a classroom they sit quietly, raising hands to speak. On a playground they run, shout and laugh freely. At home they may relax completely. This shift is natural because they are responding to the context. Adults often lose this fluidity as habits harden. They decide, this is just who I am, and resist adjusting. But the truth is that human strength lies in adaptability. Just as the body grows stronger when it adjusts to new conditions, the mind grows sharper when it learns to navigate different social contexts. The first step to behavioral flexibility is awareness. You must pay attention to the setting you are in. What is the mood of the room? What expectations are unspoken? How are others interacting? If you enter a group where people are serious and focused, jumping in with jokes may disrupt instead of connect. If you join a group that is light-hearted, being overly formal may create distance. Awareness helps you sense what the moment requires. Once you recognize the context, the next step is choosing how to adjust. This can mean shifting your language. In professional spaces, clarity and respect often carry more weight than casual slang. In close friendships, relaxed speech may strengthen connection. It can mean adjusting your tone of voice. Calm, steady tones work well in conflict, while enthusiasm works better in celebration. It can also mean adjusting body language. Leaning in shows attentiveness, while stepping back shows respect for space. These small adjustments send powerful signals that you understand the situation and care enough to adapt. Flexibility is not about faking. People can sense when someone is pretending. Authentic adaptation means staying true to your values while changing your delivery.
For example, honesty is a value, but how you express it depends on context. To a close friend you might speak blunt, to a colleague you might frame it more diplomatically. Both are honest, but the style fits the relationship. This is flexibility rooted in authenticity. Another part of adaptability is emotional regulation. Social contexts often stir emotions, excitement, irritation, anxiety, or joy. If you let emotions control you, you may act in ways that don't fit the situation. Flexibility means noticing your emotions and guiding them. If you feel anger rising during a disagreement, flexibility allows you to pause, breathe, and respond with calm reasoning instead of heated words. If you feel nervous in a large group, flexibility allows you to ground yourself and engage gradually instead of withdrawing. By adapting your emotional responses, you maintain influence and connection. Conflict provides a clear example. Some people always fight aggressively, others always retreat. Neither extreme works in every situation. Flexibility means knowing when to stand firm and when to compromise, when to speak strongly and when to listen quietly. It means adjusting strategies to reach resolution instead of clinging to one rigid style. People trust leaders and friends who can handle different conflicts with sensitivity, because it shows maturity and self-control. Social contexts also change across cultures. A gesture or expression welcomed in one culture may offend in another. Behavioral flexibility requires cultural awareness. You may need to lower your voice, adjust your physical distance, or use more formal greetings, depending on the norms. When you show willingness to adapt to cultural contexts, people feel respected and trust grows. In contrast, refusing to adapt signals arrogance. Flexibility demonstrates humility and wisdom. Another key element of adaptability is role shifting. In one context, you may need to be a listener, in another, a motivator, in another, a problem solver. If you cling only to one role, you limit your contribution. For instance, in a brainstorming session, flexibility means being open, creative, and encouraging wild ideas. In a planning meeting, flexibility means becoming focused, practical, and detail-oriented. Both roles matter, but knowing when to step into each role is what makes you valuable in groups. Flexibility also means responding to individual differences. Not everyone thinks, feels, or communicates the same way. Some prefer direct conversation. Others prefer subtle hints. Some want detailed explanations. Others want the big picture. If you only communicate in your preferred style, you miss connection with many. If you adapt your approach to fit the person, your message lands more effectively. This is not manipulation. It is consideration. It shows that you value the other person enough to meet them where they are. Practicing behavioral flexibility requires experimentation. You will not always get it right. Sometimes you may over-adjust or misread a situation. That is part of learning. What matters is your willingness to reflect and improve. After each interaction, ask yourself, did I match the context well? Did I adapt too much or too little? Did my adjustment strengthen connection or weaken it? These reflections sharpen your skill over time. Confidence plays a big role in flexibility. If you lack confidence, you may resist adapting out of fear of rejection. If you have too much pride, you may resist adapting out of stubbornness. True flexibility comes from confidence rooted in self-respect. You know who you are, so you are free to adjust without losing yourself. You are not pretending. You are expressing different parts of yourself that already exist. Confidence allows flexibility to feel natural instead of forced. Technology adds another dimension. In online communication, many social signals are reduced or absent. Flexibility here means adjusting how you write, how you use tone in messages, how you structure virtual meetings. Chapter 9. Analyze conflict patterns and resolve issues with calm strategy. Conflict is a natural part of human life. Whenever two or more people interact, differences in values, goals, or expectations eventually surface. What separates strong, balanced individuals from those who feel constantly overwhelmed is not the absence of conflict, but the ability to analyze it, understand its patterns, and approach it with calm strategy. Conflict does not have to be destructive. Handled with skill, it can become an opportunity for growth, deeper understanding, and stronger relationships. The first step is to step back from the heat of the moment and recognize what kind of conflict you are facing. Conflicts often fall into recognizable patterns. Some are about resources, money, time, or responsibilities. Others are about values, differences in beliefs, principles, or priorities. Some are rooted in emotions, hurt feelings, fear, or pride. Others are structural, caused by unclear roles, poor communication, or unfair systems. If you try to solve all of these the same way, you fail. A resource conflict requires negotiation. A value conflict requires respect and tolerance. An emotional conflict requires empathy. A structural conflict requires redesigning systems. By learning to identify the pattern, you save yourself from wasting energy on the wrong approach. Another pattern to recognize is escalation. Many conflicts follow predictable stages. They start with tension, often subtle. A remark is misunderstood, a need is ignored, or a boundary is crossed. If unaddressed, tension turns into confrontation. Voices rise, blame begins, positions harden. If it continues, escalation grows into hostility, and the relationship suffers damage. The key to calm strategy is addressing conflict at the earliest stage, before it grows. If you learn to spot tension, like sarcasm, withdrawal, or irritation, you can resolve issues quickly and prevent unnecessary escalation. Personality styles also play a role in conflict patterns. Some people are confrontational, they push directly into the issue with intensity. Others are avoidant, they withdraw and hope the problem disappears. Some are accommodating, they give in to keep peace, even at personal cost. Others are competitive, they want to win at all costs. Still others are collaborative, they look for solutions that satisfy everyone. By noticing patterns in how people approach conflict, you can adapt your strategy. With an avoidant person, you may need to gently draw them out. With a confrontational person, you may need to stay calm and steady. With a competitive person, you may need to reframe the conflict into shared goals. Recognizing these tendencies helps you respond with clarity instead of frustration. Calm strategy begins with self-control. When conflict arises, emotions surge. Anger, defensiveness, fear, or pride can push you to react impulsively. But reactive responses usually escalate rather than resolve. The disciplined choice is to pause. Take a breath. Ground yourself. Remind yourself that conflict is a situation to manage, not a war to win. This pause allows your rational mind to re-engage, and it prevents you from saying or doing something you regret. Calmness itself is a powerful tool. It disarms aggression, lowers tension, and sets a tone of stability. Once calm, the next step is clarity. Many conflicts spiral because people argue about symptoms instead of causes. Two co-workers may fight about meeting schedules, but the real issue is lack of respect for each other's time. A couple may argue about chores, but the deeper issue is feeling unappreciated. If you only focus on surface issues, the conflict keeps returning. Calm strategy means digging deep. Ask questions. Listen carefully. Separate positions from needs. What does each person really want? What values are at stake? What fears are driving the behavior? Identifying the root allows you to address the conflict at its core. Listening is central to resolution. Most people in conflict are more eager to be heard than to hear. They repeat their points louder and louder, hoping for acknowledgement. When you stop and genuinely listen, you break the cycle. Listening does not mean agreement. It means showing respect by giving full attention, summarizing what you heard, and acknowledging feelings. I hear that you are frustrated because you feel overlooked. This simple act can soften resistance. When people feel understood, they are more willing to understand you in return. Communication during conflict should be clear, calm and focused on the issue, not the person. Blame and attacks ignite defensiveness. You never listen or you always mess things up closed doors. Instead, use specific factual language. When the deadline was missed, it caused problems for the team. Focus on behavior and impact, not character. This keeps the conversation constructive. Another principle of calm strategy is separating facts from stories. Humans are quick to build narrative. He did that because he doesn't respect me. She said that to embarrass me. These stories fuel anger, but they are often guesses, not truth. Step back and ask, what are the actual facts? What assumptions am I adding? This shift reduces unnecessary drama and keeps you grounded in reality. Resolution also requires seeking common ground. Even in the toughest conflicts, there are usually shared interests. Two colleagues arguing about project direction may both want the company to succeed. Two parents arguing about discipline may both want their child to grow into a good person. By highlighting shared goals, you shift the focus from opposition to cooperation. Calm strategy emphasizes unity wherever possible. Sometimes resolution requires compromise. Neither side gets everything, but both get enough. Compromise is not weakness, it is practicality. But beyond compromise, the highest level of conflict resolution is collaboration. Finding creative solutions that satisfy core needs on both sides. This requires patience, creativity, and willingness to step out of rigid positions. Calm strategy opens the mind to possibilities. Power imbalances add another layer. When one side feels weaker, fear and resentment increase. A manager must be especially careful when resolving conflict with employees. A parent must handle authority with fairness when resolving conflict with children. Calm strategy requires using authority responsibly, not to crush the other side, but to create safety where honest discussion can happen. Abuse of power may end the immediate conflict, but creates long-term damage. Wise leaders use power to build, not to dominate. Conflict also repeats in cycles. If the same argument keeps resurfacing, it means the underlying issue is unresolved. Analyze recurring patterns. Are you arguing about money every month? Are the same communication habits causing friction again and again? Identify the recurring theme and address it directly. Until the root is resolved, the cycle continues. Calm strategy means breaking cycles by tackling the real issue instead of endlessly reacting to symptoms. Sometimes, despite best efforts, resolution is not immediate. The conflict may require time, reflection, or distance. Calm strategy recognizes when to pause and return later. Forcing a solution in the heat of tension often backfires. Giving space allows emotions to cool and perspective to return. The willingness to wait, combined with commitment to return, shows maturity. Forgiveness is another essential element. Even when issues are resolved, lingering resentment poisons relationships. Forgiveness does not mean forgetting or excusing harm. It means releasing the grip of anger so you can move forward. Without forgiveness, conflicts leave scars that reopen easily. With forgiveness, healing begins. Forgiveness requires strength, not weakness, and it is often the final step in true resolution. Learning to analyze and resolve conflict with calm strategy is not just about peace with others, it also protects your own well-being. Living in constant anger or unresolved tension drains energy, damages health, and clouds judgment. When you face conflicts calmly, you maintain inner stability. You remain in control of yourself, even if you cannot control others. That is personal freedom. To grow in this area, Practice observing conflicts around you. Watch how others argue. Notice patterns. Who escalates quickly? Who avoids issues? Who seeks solutions? Study what works and what fails. Each observation sharpens your ability to analyze. And when your own conflicts arise, reflect afterward. Ask what pattern it followed, what strategy you used, and what you might do differently next time. Growth comes from reflection as much as from practice. In the end, conflict will always be part of life, but it does not have to dominate or destroy. With awareness, analysis, and calm strategy, you can navigate conflict with strength and wisdom. You can turn disputes into dialogue, tension into understanding, and opposition into cooperation. You can step into difficult moments, not with fear, but with confidence, knowing that you have the tools to face them. That is the essence of mastering conflict, not eliminating it, but transforming it into an opportunity for clarity, growth, and stronger connection.
Chapter 10. Integrate psychological mastery and grow lasting social intelligence. Mastery of psychology is not achieved by memorizing theories or collecting information. It is achieved when you apply understanding of the mind to your daily life and relationships in ways that consistently bring clarity, strength, and harmony. Social intelligence is not just about being likable or persuasive. It is about creating real human connection and navigating interactions with awareness and purpose. When you integrate psychological mastery with social intelligence, you gain a lasting advantage that influences not just how you succeed, but how deeply you experience life. This integration is not a single event. It is a lifelong process of refining awareness, adjusting behaviors, and expanding your capacity to understand both yourself and others. The journey begins with inner mastery. You cannot build strong social intelligence without first grounding yourself in self-awareness. Understanding your motives, needs, and patterns is the foundation. If you do not recognize what drives you, you risk being controlled by impulses you cannot see. If you do not notice your triggers, you will continue to repeat the same reactions in different contexts. True psychological mastery means you study yourself honestly. You notice your strengths, your weaknesses, your blind spots, and you commit to growth. Self-awareness is not about criticism, it is about clarity. It allows you to act with choice instead of being ruled by habit. But mastery does not stop at awareness, it demands discipline. Knowledge without application is powerless. You can understand emotional regulation in theory, but until you practice calming yourself in tense moments, you do not own that skill. You can understand reinforcement psychology, but until you deliberately shape your habits through rewards and consequences, it remains an idea. Integration means you take these psychological principles and weave them into your routines, your conversations, and your decisions until they become part of who you are. Once you have built this inner foundation, social intelligence becomes your next level. Humans are deeply social beings, and much of your success and fulfillment depends on how you navigate relationships. Social intelligence requires sensitivity to social signals, awareness of group dynamics, and flexibility in behavior. It is about knowing how to adjust without losing authenticity, how to influence without manipulation, how to lead without arrogance. When you integrate psychological mastery with social intelligence, you gain the ability to see both the visible and invisible layers of human interaction, the words spoken, the emotions beneath, the motives driving behavior, and the unspoken needs waiting to be addressed. To grow lasting social intelligence, practice observing interactions, not just for content, but for process. Ask yourself, what emotions are shaping this exchange? What needs are being expressed indirectly? What values are colliding here? This deeper observation allows you to respond in ways that resolve tensions instead of inflaming them.
in ways that encourage trust instead of resistance. Over time, you become the person others look to for stability and fairness because you demonstrate consistent awareness. Integration also requires authenticity. If you use psychological insights to manipulate, people eventually sense the insincerity. Real mastery is not about tricking others into agreement. It is about connecting through honesty. Authenticity means aligning your actions with your values and speaking with sincerity, even when it is uncomfortable. It means using your understanding of psychology not to exploit weaknesses, but to support growth for yourself and for others. Lasting influence is built on trust, and trust cannot be faked. Another key aspect of integration is balance. Psychology teaches you about the many needs that drive behavior: certainty, variety, significance, connection, growth, and contribution. Social intelligence requires you to balance these needs within yourself and in your interactions with others. If you ignore someone's need for respect, you create resentment. If you neglect your own need for growth, you become stagnant. Balance is not about perfect equality every day, but about awareness and adjustment. You notice where needs are being neglected, and you make changes before imbalance becomes crisis. Integration also involves resilience. Life will test your mastery. There will be conflicts, setbacks, and misunderstandings. Social intelligence does not mean you avoid all difficulties. It means you face them with composure. You analyze patterns, regulate emotions, and choose calm strategy. Instead of reacting with fear or anger, you approach challenges as opportunities to practice mastery. Each conflict resolved with clarity strengthens your confidence. Each setback endured with resilience deepens your wisdom. Over time, you develop a steadiness that others admire and rely upon. To truly integrate psychological mastery, you must also embrace continuous learning. Human behavior is complex, and no single lesson is final. As society changes, as cultures shift, as technology reshapes communication, new challenges arise. Lasting social intelligence requires curiosity. You keep studying, keep reflecting, keep adapting. You read, you observe, you listen, and you refine your understanding. The moment you think you know everything about human behavior is the moment growth stops. Humility keeps you open, and openness keeps you advancing. Practical application is where integration becomes visible. Every conversation becomes a chance to practice emotional awareness. Every group setting becomes a chance to guide dynamics. Every disagreement becomes a chance to test calm strategy. Every day offers moments to reinforce good habits, to regulate impulses, to notice biases, to show empathy, to adapt behaviors. Integration is not something you do once in a while. It is something you embed in your daily life until it becomes automatic. Social intelligence also requires you to consider the impact of your presence. People remember less about what you said and more about how you made them feel. Did you leave them encouraged or discouraged? Did you leave them respected or diminished? Did you leave them calmer or more agitated? Psychological mastery gives you tools to manage yourself. Social intelligence ensures you use those tools to create positive experiences for others. When both work together, you leave lasting impressions that build relationships and opportunity. Another part of growing lasting social intelligence is adaptability. No two people are the same. No two contexts are identical. Rigidity is the enemy of connection. Integration requires flexibility, knowing when to speak and when to stay silent, when to be firm and when to be gentle, when to lead and when to follow. This flexibility does not weaken you. It strengthens you. It shows maturity, sensitivity, and wisdom. People trust those who can adapt without losing integrity. Influence is a natural result of integration. When people see you consistently calm, fair, authentic, and aware, they give you respect and authority. They come to you for guidance. They trust your judgment. Influence built this way is not temporary. It lasts because it is rooted in genuine strength. Unlike manipulation, which collapses once discovered, authentic influence grows deeper with time. It becomes part of your identity. Integration also expands beyond individual relationships into wider impact. When you apply psychological mastery and social intelligence in communities, workplaces, and families, you create cultures of respect and growth. You model balanced behavior that others adopt. You demonstrate how conflicts can be resolved without destruction. You show how different personalities can work together. This ripple effect magnifies your influence far beyond yourself. To sustain this integration, reflection is essential. Set aside time regularly to ask yourself, where did I apply mastery well today, and where did I fall short? Did I listen with full attention? Did I regulate my emotions? Did I adapt my behavior to the context? Did I remain authentic? This reflection sharpens awareness and prevents you from slipping back into autopilot. Growth is not linear. It requires ongoing attention, but with reflection, you maintain steady progress. The reward of integrating psychological mastery with social intelligence is freedom. Freedom from being controlled by impulses. Freedom from being trapped by distorted thinking. Freedom from destructive habits. Freedom from shallow connections. Instead, you gain clarity of mind, strength of character, and depth of relationship. You move through life with calm confidence, knowing you can face challenges, build trust, and create impact. This freedom is not given. It is earned through discipline and practice. As you grow in this integration, you also discover fulfillment. Success without mastery often feels empty because it lacks connection. Achievement without social intelligence often feels lonely because it isolates you. But when you master yourself and connect with others authentically, you feel whole. You experience not just external success, but inner satisfaction. You contribute, you grow, you connect, and you influence, all while staying true to yourself. That is the mark of a life well lived. The work of integration is never finished, and that is its beauty. Every new challenge, every new relationship, every new stage of life gives you a chance to refine your mastery. Instead of fearing change, you welcome it as practice. Instead of avoiding difficulty, you embrace it as training. Over years, this continuous practice transforms you into someone with depth, wisdom, and presence. People sense it when they are with you. They feel steadier, clearer, more hopeful, because your mastery radiates. The choice is in your hand. You can drift through life ruled by impulses, habits, and reactions, or you can live with intention, awareness, and balance. You can settle for shallow interactions, or you can build deep connections, grounded in respect and authenticity. You can repeat the same mistakes, or you can grow stronger with every experience. Integration of psychological mastery and social intelligence is not an abstract idea. It is the daily decision to practice awareness, discipline, empathy, and authenticity until they shape your character. In the end, what you become matters as much as what you achieve. Lasting social intelligence makes you someone people trust, someone they turn to, someone they remember. Psychological mastery makes you steady in yourself, unshaken by storms, consistent in character. Together they form a foundation for a meaningful life. This is the path of true growth, mastering the mind, honoring others, and weaving both into every choice you make. When you live this way, you not only transform yourself, you leave a legacy that continues long after